In this video, I will be drawing while talking about the book White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The book is sectioned into 6 parts. Part 1 is the first night, Part 2 is the second night, Part 3 is Nastenka's story, Part 4 is the third night, Part 5 is the fourth night, and Part 6 is the morning. Night 1, the narrator is a lonely young man who spends most of his time alone. He meets Nastenka while walking at night, but she is crying, so he helps her. By night 2, they talk, and the narrator tells his life story before they have to retreat, but they agree to meet again. Part 3, Nastenka tells the narrator about her life. She explains that she loves a lodger who left a year ago and promised to return. The narrator listens and becomes emotionally attached to her. Night 3, Nastenka waits for the lodger to come back, but he doesn't appear. She becomes upset and disappointed, but the narrator comforts her and starts hoping she might love him instead. By night 4, the narrator confesses that he loves Nastenka. For a moment, it seems she might choose him. Then her old lover suddenly returns. Nastenka runs to him, leaving the narrator heartbroken. By morning, the narrator receives a letter from Nastenka. She thanks him and asks for forgiveness. Although sad, he is grateful for the brief happiness she gave him. In the first night, I was very irritated with the narrator. He's obviously self-absorbed and blurts on and on about himself and woe is me type stuff. Like, dude, chill. You've known her for 5 minutes? He expects her to feel guilt for him and to just fawn over his tragic life. Dostoevsky is clever with it. I'm guessing he starts ranting about himself because he's never really talked to anyone before. The narrator was missing key elements of communication and respect, mainly learning from his own imagination and delusions. Dostoevsky made the story a expectations versus reality subject. The narrator is looking for every unrealistic depiction of fairy tale love and finding the one true partner. By the final morning, getting the letter from Nastenka, I feel he gets partially what realistic love is, and that he was yearning for a girl that wanted him as a last resort. Nastenka is a bit more realistic. She did spend her life still secluded from anyone other than her grandmother, but she has already learned how to properly communicate with others. She's like a doe in a sense still, fluttery, impressionable, and even fragile. She relies on the lodger for most of her future and expectations. I get that at least. She saw the lodger as one of the first people nearest to her age, and felt an attraction, which made her hop on that ship to try her best to impress him. I like when she rants about her life more than the narrator. The narrator is always cutting her off and making it about him or amplifying Nastenka's problems. He's trying so hard to make her love him while trying to say he follows her wishes of being a brotherly figure. The lodger isn't really in the story much, unless depicted by Nastenka's recollections. He's a kind man that at first seems to take pity on Nastenka and her grandmother. He finds they need an outlet to keep busy and fulfilled. He doesn't seem utterly in love with Nastenka until the promise happens. In my opinion, I think he's still just trying to keep her little heart happy and content. Reminder, Nastenka's 15. Nastenka's grandmother is even more rarely spoken of than the lodger. All you really hear is that she is blind and never really lets Nastenka do anything on her own. She seems more strict and concerned than anything else. I think Dostoevsky has made themes pretty clear. Expectation versus reality, being stuck in your head, and the search for an unrealistic love. He also implements the reasons for the two becoming dreamers: isolation. There are several interesting symbols and motifs integrated into the short story. Like the dreamer, having begun to succumb to isolation, the victim of such ambiguity to other people, becomes encased in their own mind and building fake realities and stories of what they want to feel and experience. They are filling in the gaps torn out by missed experiences and conditioning from the outside world. The books that are read by both Nastenka and the narrator are key elements in the joining of the two. They experience the same stories and probably filled their heads with the same fantasy. The lodger bringing Nastenka's books helped her gain a semblance of independence and knowledge of the outside world, but it also pressed unreachable goals that she somehow manages to reach. The opera, aka The Barber of Seville, that Nastenka and her grandmother are taken to by the lodger, shows headway to the independence and freedom of Nastenka. She is still pinned, even if not physically, to her grandmother, but she is experiencing something new with another person at the same time. It is a key subject to why Nastenka is more seasoned than the narrator. It also brings Nastenka an opportunity to be closer to the lodger and suspect a good future. The cobwebs in the narrator's room, however, show he has not moved on from his life of delusional thinking. He stayed imagining the impossible and not going out to really experience life. He's stuck in time and has become covered in and surrounded by the reality of time. The quote, "I am a dreamer," basically makes a path to the whole reason of the book. It is an admission to the narrator being stuck in his own head. The quote, "I have lived my life as though it were a dream," basically is a nail in the coffin for him, never recovering from his thoughts of fiction. It shows that he doesn't want to and hasn't ever been out of his own head. But a sliver of acceptance to his own reality makes way with the quote, "A whole moment of happiness." Is that not enough for a whole lifetime? He's realizing that he is content with his small amount of time with Nastenka, even if she did not fully accept his nagging for love. In 19th century Russia, women had limited independence, so Nastenka's choices are shaped by dependence on male figures and strict social control. Her grandmother's supervision restricts her freedom, and the lodger represents a rare chance for escape and emotional connection. Because of this, Nastenka bases her sense of self heavily on relationships with men, especially the lodger, rather than the personal independence. The story mostly reflects 19th century gender norms by centering male experience and emotional interiority, especially through the narrator, who dominates the narrative. Women are mainly seen through his perspective and tend to function as emotional or romantic catalysts rather than fully developed equals. It slightly changes norms by showing Nastenka as the one who actively chooses her future, while the male narrator is left powerless and passive, which inverts the typical expectation of male control in relationships. Dostoevsky keeps the lodger off stage to make him more symbolic than real. He represents an idea, hope, promise, and real life outside of the narrator's world, rather than a fully developed character. This also keeps the focus on the narrator's emotions and imagination, making the story more about perception and longing than about actual events. When Nastenka starts talking about the lodger, we, the reader, understand she is definitely attached still, and will hop on that train as soon as the lodger appears. But the narrator is so focused on his own goal that he still believes he has a chance, outside of the brotherly adversary, to get with Nastenka. When the narrator starts growing that giddy hope in his head, aka still making up a false reality, he is really just misinterpreting Nastenka's kindness to him as romantic interest. We already know she isn't ready for him, and he's just really oblivious. On the fourth night, before the morning, the lodger's return makes the reader think the situation is finalized, and that Nastenka is with her one true love. But the narrator is still believing he might have a chance with her afterwards. Like, dude, she's running off away from you with another man she has talked about being hers for eternity. So, moral of this video is, hate the narrator. He's a little self-absorbed.